Hello, 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 and welcome to the $1 Million Electrician Podcast, where we help home service pros like you supercharge your business and spark up those sales.
I'm Joseph Lucani, and together with my co-host, Clay Newmeyer, we're here to share the secrets that have helped electricians sell over $1 million from a single service van.
Now, it's time for sales. It's time for scale. It's time to become $1 million electrician. All right, and welcome back to another episode. Today, we've got another 2-year anniversary following Dan Totten's big second-year anniversary. We got to learn so much about his growth. Today, we get to dive back in with Dorian. Dorian Hayes, welcome back, brother. Nice to have you.
Absolutely, man. It's always a pleasure being with you guys.
Very cool. And how you doing today, Joe?
I'm doing awesome, man. I got a strong cup of coffee. I'm surrounded by friends. I love living my passion. How can you ask for more?
Here's how you ask for more by joining us today in this one, because what we're about to unveil is how Dorian's really blown up from going from, what was it, 40K part-time before August of 2023 to then jumping full trust with us, jumping into our silver, our flagship program, going that first year with us and now beyond. You've recently maybe seen a value piece. We've been talking about Dorian stuff. We're going to go deeper on that full history of Dorian's journey here today and pick up where we left off about a year ago. No, a little over a year ago, we did the first episode with you after your first quarter. But man, there's been a ton of lessons, challenges, growth, great moments, high fives, moments where I know you guys, maybe wanted to even throw in the towel. And I'd love to jump in a lot of that today and expose it so others can learn from that too. What do you say, brother?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. We were talking about some numbers before this. Since you started, you just broke 900K in about, what are we at? 17 months
17,
of business
18
here.
months, something like that. Yeah.
Yep,
You should be able to
17,
hit the 7-figure mark in about 18, 19 months of business at your current sales rate. That's exceptional. We're talking about right around 330 calls sold, 550 calls ran, 874 leads, an average ticket since you started of 2684 and a 60% close rate. Man, those are great numbers for an electrician. How in the HE, I'm bringing the Canadian out, how in the HE double hockey sticks did you manage to take on to sales and get a liking for residential service so quick, even with very little experience?
So honestly, whenever I was working in the plants before I jumped ship and decided to go full time with the business, I had no idea that, residential service was, a thing that I could build my business around. And honestly, I think I started seeing you guys' content probably around June or July before I quit. And just after consuming all of the podcasts and all the videos and the value pieces you guys were giving out, and also a few calls with Clay, and just, it spoke more, spoke more to who I am and what I love to do, which is, honestly, just help people, be around people. And after, realizing that, hey, the only thing I have to do is take action on the things that you guys provide to us. After kind of diving into the numbers and hypotheticals, if, we just do X, Y, Z, we would be able to do this. And I think that was kind of what led me to just, taking that jump, that leap of faith, and just believing in, taking the action on the right things, man. And here we are.
If I could jump into that for a moment, because I don't feel like we've given it the proper context. And the thing is, Dorian, you got to give yourself a little more credit here. Like, you started off as an industrial guy. You were not in business. You didn't have any experience. Just making any jump from the familiar to the unfamiliar is already a huge bridge to overcome. Then getting into a whole new niche trade, completely blind into it and saying, we're going to go right off and we're going to follow a process that I've been seeing is working, and you put your whole heart into that, that's another bridge you've crossed. But then to not only go further and have the full 17, 18 months where you were consistently devoted to the process, you're devoted to present over perfect, you've crossed 3 bridges that most people don't cross in their entire life in 18 months. That's what I feel you need to deserve credit for. So can you give yourself a little bit of love? Like give a little pat on the
Oh,
back or something, man?
I appreciate that, man, for
All
sure.
right, sweet.
Yep, yep. I mean, it's I don't know, it's just one of those things where I guess, even now it's like we have our blinders on and we try to be so focused on, I guess those next steps. But I appreciate you guys because that is one thing I've learned is how important gratitude is, and taking that daily, every single day, taking that moment to just truly step back and appreciate where you're at, the things you've overcome. So appreciate that.
Proud of you, bro.
Well, I think it's like both you guys said, a lot of this comes down to fundamentals, to just doing the basics well. I mean, Hormozy said this really well, actually. There's no advanced without 100% basics.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean to you, Joe, when you hear something like that?
So really what I'm hearing in that is that if you understand the core fundamentals of something, like, and the best example I do is if we were to say, compare it to martial training, right? If you yourself are going to be in a situation where you don't know what you're doing, it's not going to really work. But understanding the basics and the core concepts allows you to be able to implement proper techniques, which actually get real results. So many people think and they'll come to us and say, like, show me how to handle objections, show me how to do this. This one's stumping me. But they're not realizing that prior to all of this, there's a fundamental step of let's just be someone they trust, like, and respect, and let's just serve them. And once that core basic is done, those options and over the objections you were getting don't really work anymore. So you're ready to just overcome it through mastery of the basics.
Speaking of objections, I've got a couple of things I wanted to say on that. And Dorian, I'm curious what your opinion is at this point, now that you've been training with us for a while and training in sales in general, doing electrical. Do you guys feel like, for the most part, people just answer to objections too fast? You know what I mean? And Joe, I think we even train on this, and you may have to correct my language because Joe's a sales bot. If you guys don't realize that, Joe is training sales about 6 to 8 classes a week at this point. But ultimately, there's a difference between a concern and objection. Would you agree with that? What do you guys think is the difference there?
So really, it's something that we teach when we get into it, is that someone may say, that is a lot of money. And that's not an objection. That's a statement. It's a reaction. It's a natural thing that progresses. The problem is some person might say, oh, they're objecting to it by saying it's too much. But really it's, okay, well, I completely acknowledge that. So with that being said, with us being an investment because we're not cutting corners on quality, reliability, or customer service, how would you like to proceed? Yeah, let's do that one. Whereas an objection is, you're out of your mind. I'm not paying this. Or they say anything along the lines of, no, I'm not doing this. That's an objection.
Okay, Dorian, I'm tagging you in. Has anyone told you you're out of your mind yet?
I've gotten that a few times, man. But honestly, and something I'm thankful for is, whenever you have a sales process that's truly designed to serve the customer at the highest level, we're able to go into it with complete confidence that, we're not doing anything unethical. Even when it comes to the price, although we may be more of an investment to work with, the services that we do provide, we do believe is truly, like, unlike anything that our industry has to offer, especially in our area. So when it comes to that, just complete confidence that what we're offering is truly in their best interest. And, at the end of the day, they have the ability to choose whether or not they want to move forward with it. And we're perfectly fine both ways. And even when we do get that, at the end of the day, we're able to part ways as friends, and we even help them out additionally by referring them to some of our referral partners in our area. So at the end of the day, the customer always wins. And, we're just putting our best foot forward to help and serve them at the highest level.
I love when you get into it and you said, really, because you've mentioned so far the word service so many times in just that one statement. And I like that that's a core value that we both represent and that we both emulate, because if you're not serving, the sale will never follow. So many people go in the wrong direction. And I feel like this is a major industry issue. People will chase the number thinking that will lead to the success. But when you shift your mind to, instead of acquisition, to serving. I mean, it's a common law in giving, we receive, right?
Mhm.
When you serve and you pour it out with your full heart and customers start to see that, it stops being apples to apples. And like we say, it's like apples to Corvettes. It's a completely different example. So I love that you're focused on the service, man. That shows you're really on that right path.
For sure. And I mean, there's, I feel like the price objection is probably one of the most common things we face.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, there's been so many situations where, you know, we may come in and they may have multiple quotes already. And there's been times where we've even been double or maybe even triple the other quotes, but they still choose us. And then whenever you pair situations like that with the fact that, I think we're at 95 or 96 five-star reviews. And,
That's nice.
we get, so much feedback from our customers and, Juliet doing happy calls after a project is finished. That kind of just gives me all the proof in addition to the data that, the services we provide truly are exceptional. And, with that, I'm always happy to offer it, so.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to jump in a moment, but just the last thing I'm thinking here is your slogan. Like the thing you've always said is we're here to help.
That's it.
And I really feel like that is the circle that comes back to it. You really put out the image that you're here to help. You show up when it's time to do the service, and then you do the before, after, before, during, and then after levels of care.
Absolutely.
So you're here to help is really something you should tattoo to your sleeve at this point.
Love it, man. I put it at the end of on all my Facebook posts quite often. So that's sticking around.
Dorian, can you tell us about a recent job that you did? I've got one in mind and I want to get right into it if that's all right.
Yeah, go ahead.
There was a job where you recently, I think it was your top option was chosen, and it was for a landscape lighting package.
Yeah, I remember that one.
But the call out was actually a demand call, I believe, where really the fix could have been. What was your lowest option on this one? In the hundreds?
So my lowest option in that case, well, it was actually 149 because that is also an option for them to say, hey, we're not going to do any of your solutions. We're just going to pay for the diagnostic. And at the very least, they know what's wrong already. So, they're still paying for that information and that service and that they can take to another electrician if they wanted to.
Good point.
So yeah.
Love that. So you get a call out. What you found was, hey, there's a diagnostic here. But what you then did, I mean, could you walk us through the process? I mean, don't worry about giving too much away. Tell us what happens there. What do you do? How do you come out with a $24,000 sale from a potential just a 149 diagnostics?
Yeah, man. So, initially you get calls like that and you're like, okay, in the back of your mind as electricians, you're already thinking like, okay, probably lose connection somewhere. Some of the lights are working, some of them not. That means that power's still getting there. So landscape lighting, pretty sure there's just wire nuts underneath the ground, maybe taped, something like that. They probably just don't have a good connection. After finding that and just having the conversation with the homeowner and saying like, what is this like? What is the experience with not having your landscape lights? Just having really the conversation about why they wanted this, why they reached out to us. And honestly, what I ended up doing is we initially sold it at a lower option on that first visit. So it was, I think initially it was around like 2,300 or something like that. We were just going to basically rerun all the wires for all new connections. And we were even going to pay to have the landscape remulched for her because she just got it done the week before.
Of that.
So, make it more convenient for her. She actually chose that option. But then we had another phone call the day after. And she was discussing like, since you guys are already going to be, running all new wires, do you think it would make sense to just get brand new lights? And then she started asking about, all kind of questions and talking about just outside lighting in general. And I said, well, you know what? Why don't we do this? Let's just get you back on the schedule. We have some availability tomorrow. We'll come out and we can just talk about everything that you guys are wanting to do. So that way, before you decide to make this investment on this option, we can make sure that we have absolutely all the possibilities. So that way you can, make the best decision. And so we go back the next day And we sit down on her couch for like honestly about 2.5 hours just talking, like just having regular conversations. And she's showing me things around the house that she doesn't like, things that she wants to do. And by the end of it, I had a good understanding of exactly what she was wanting. And honestly, man, I just, following you guys' process, I just offered 6 options ranging from the absolute best possible service that we can provide all the way down to the bare minimum. And she loved the top option so much that she was like, okay, yes, I want that one.
So there's a few things here to unpack. Okay.
Okay.
I love this. I love a real good case study,
Yeah.
So did you fix the initial problem on the original call?
Yes. So I did a temporary connection that still allowed her lights to work. But I just basically told her that, hey, and until we're able to, there's a few of them that weren't working, but I was able to fix like the main lights that were shining up. So I fixed that, and I just explained to her, how important good electrical connections are in your electrical system. So we left it that, she was fine, that everything was working at that time. So I would say, yes, I did provide a temporary solution, but it wasn't a permanent fix.
That's exactly what I want to hear. Awesome.
Great language. Great language. So we've called this anchoring in the past. So you get a demand call. You've learned more about their experience. You've earned trust by listening well and just having great conversation, asking great questions, because real sales leadership happens through questions, not through statements, right?
100%.
Am I getting this right so far, Dorian?
Yeah, 100%. You actually made a post about that that I shared with my team. I don't remember exactly how it goes, but it was he who asked the questions. I think
controls the call.
Yes, and he who talks the most loses.
Yeah. Statistically, right? We had Zero AI on here recently, the CEO there, Joseph number 2, who also happened to start at a knife company like Joseph, our Joseph number 1, which is crazy. To us,
sling and cutlery, man. What are you gonna do?
But we know also we've had Fathom AI for Zoom meetings, etc. But Zero AI and what they're able to do and what they measure, I mean, there's literally a statistical balance where the most proven sales leaders speak about 35 to 45% of the time. When you start to break through the 50 and become that 65% speaker, it usually means you're falling forward into some traps, or you're presenting too much and not allowing them to ask. So yeah, absolutely. There's some real gravity around that. Thanks for calling attention to that.
For sure.
So if sales leadership's by questions, you've done that to understand their experience. Maybe I sped through that too quick. Did anyone listening or watching this just have an epiphany moment? We should have actually
continually on this, but dig into it, man.
We should have, right? Well, if you think about the pivot to a question, and we've actually done an episode on this, so I'll give the exact example. When you're at the panel and there's some expression, some sigh, something that you're doing in your physical body language, your tonality, and it creates a question mark. It's like a visual for them. For a lot of people, they're just like, they can't see anything else but this red question mark in this dark hole and all these wires everywhere in the mess. They have to know. And if they ask at that point and you start falling forward into describing and answering their question, the sale is lost.
100%.
Right there.
Yep.
And the correct thing to do is actually to pivot there, to acknowledge their concern and to pivot and ask another question to take control again. Do you guys agree with that?
Absolutely.
I would agree. And the cool thing is like even what you're saying is even more subtle. It could be as much as just a noise, like, huh. And that's it. And then just like, wait, hold on. What's on? What do we see? Like, wait a second. Don't worry about it. We can always get to that later. I'm just noticing some things. We can always discuss it when the time comes. Hey, if you don't mind me asking, and then shift.
Yeah. So you anchor this call by doing that. But the questions you asked allowed you the trust to be able to have the moments where you're able to then communicate the value of good electrical connections. So she's not done with you, but trust is up enough that she calls back. She's now having ideas and considers you a partner in her ideation, a trustworthy, dependable partner.
Yep.
Like another pause moment here. That's value.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can add to that, one of the things that she did mention on the phone to both me and Juliet was she's not from here, so she moves here and she doesn't really know anybody. So whenever one of the things she said was how appreciative that our service was just by from calling the office. And basically, she told me, she's a very loyal customer, and once she finds someone that she trusts, she just, she'll stick with them for life, basically, and especially not being from here. In addition to electrical services, she was needing other things around the home that we were able to provide referrals for. So I think just honestly, that was like I don't know the word I'm looking for, but it's like that is the perfect scenario that we're looking for and the perfect customer that we're looking for. Someone who just wants to be taken care of. And that's, what we do best.
Where's our drum roll button? We need,
it makes
we
a lot
used to
of
say
sense.
no fancy shit, but like I want some fancy shit a little bit sometimes.
Well, remember I brought a pair of drums on once
Yeah.
and you literally couldn't hear it because Zoom was canceling. I was like, I had the full bongos and everything.
Couldn't even hear it. Zoom was cutting it out. I want to snapshot that moment and just like put it on the wall, Dorian, because man, the advanced lesson here is, and like we said, no advanced with 100% basics. So those 100% basics following a consistent process lead you to an advanced insight, which is, hey guys, this is our perfect customer. This is the person we want to treat that well, that I'm willing to go back there and sit on the couch for 2.5 hours to work with this person on what they desire, to create a list of solutions based on what they desire. I don't know if you guys heard that enough, but he said basically he was able to collect enough information to create a list of solutions based on what they wanted and and what's possible.
Yep. Absolutely.
Combination of the two. If you're striking out on presentations, dare I say, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong here, but if you're striking out on presentations, is it possible that you're just too focused on you and the technical shit instead of what they want?
I can even simplify it even further and say there's a specific part that if you're lacking, the entire presentation falls apart. As technicians, and Dorian, back me up here because I'm sure you've experienced it as well. We as technicians often describe the problem in our understanding of what the problem is electrically. And we'll say, like, you have faulted connections, you've got a faulted electrical system, like whatever it is, we describe the problem, but we don't go into how it affects the customer. It's just, this is the problem and here's the solution. When you create a third bridge, which is, here's currently the problem of the four what's, here's what you called me for, here's what's exactly connected to that, here's what's good and here's what's more, but this is also how it affects you emotionally and physically. That now is a solution that'll sell itself because the customer's invested, understands it, and relates to it.
Absolutely. A confused mind never buys. And that's, especially to your point earlier, sometimes overeducating at the wrong times can lead to that confusion because if you're not ready to give the answers or the solutions to the things that you're trying to educate them on, then they become afraid. They start thinking about price. And then at that point, you go to present and they're not in a position to actually make a decision. But when you save all of that, like we often say, the best position for us to be in is with our tablet at the kitchen table with the presentation ready to go. And if we can get to that part and making sure that everything is in a language that they understand based on the words that they use, then you can actually speak to the problem that they're having and the solution that you offer will actually make sense. Customer doesn't need to know that, you're going to pull a number 6 wire to their new, oven circuit, to their new electrical oven. That part doesn't matter, but they want to know that, hey, is my oven going to be working or not?
This is a turnkey installation of dedicated circuitry. We guarantee you won't do a single thing, including the spackling, the painting, and the turnkey inspections.
Yep.
What do you do personally, Dorian, to listen for and recycle their words? Do you have a trick? Is it something that comes natural to you? Is there something Are you listening for keywords? Have you ever taken notice, taken stock of what you're doing to utilize that?
Um, Honestly, I would say it would probably be just a part of the sales process that we have with you guys. Just what was that like? What made you guys decide to do XYZ, or who found this? And even down to just so we're on the same page. Are you guys on looking into this today? Not planning on doing this anytime soon. So just asking little questions like that, especially if they're like me, when you ask them a question, they're going to want to not only answer the question, but then give you all the information after that as well. So in asking those questions, sometimes it just leads to like all of this information that they're giving me. And I'm just looking for, I guess, specific words and how they describe the problem that they're experiencing that they called us for.
Like their feelings about something, or what they
Yep.
saw or heard or smelt.
Yep.
Yeah, really good stuff. Man, I'm gonna dig in here a bit. Okay. Sharp shirt, good looking guy, right? Everyone can agree with that. Do you think you're special? Do you think sales is a gift you were born with?
Oh, dude, no. Honestly, when I heard the word sales, like I immediately, before I met you guys, I used to immediately just think of car salesman, like trying to get me on something, there's something hidden that I'm not seeing. But after these last 17, 18 months, I've just come to realize that sales truly is just about communicating your ability to solve their problem. And personally, I never had any sales training. I always, honestly, small talk, like even doing podcasts and being on video was something extremely uncomfortable for me. I was, pretty good in one-on-one situations talking with people, but to be in a situation where it's like I'm the expert, I'm the one people are looking for answers, and then trying to navigate through their emotions, the things they're saying, and trying to position them to where they can actually make a great decision. That's something that was definitely not in my wheelhouse, and something that honestly I never saw myself doing, to be honest.
Do you get nervous when you write a number like 24,000 on a presentation and present it?
Nah, not at all.
Do you have a memory of like your biggest sold transaction to date?
Biggest sold would probably be, I think it was like a 48K platinum. I mean, so it started off as a 32K, and then there were some additions. But overall, it was I think a 32K platinum that ended up being like a $48,000 job.
That's what I'm talking about, man. There's no joke.
So you don't get nervous when you write $40,000-$50,000 on the page?
No, absolutely not. Whenever we've done the math, our pricing, our service rate is based on all of our expenses throughout the year. So when I look at the numbers, and I truly believe like, hey, this is truly how much it costs for us to provide this level of service. And something I'm not willing to do is cut corners on our service, our customer service, or the quality of our work. And I know that this is what it takes for us to do that. So whenever we're pricing things out, writing the top number, the highest, the platinum offer, it just is what it is. We're doing our part by, at the very least, giving them every single possible solution that we have. And then the fact that we also give them a range down to the bottom really just leaves it in their wheelhouse. So although the platinum might be more of an investment, we've also created the range down to the bottom, so you have the ability to choose and control your budget.
Love it.
The thing that stood out so much that I just immediately wanted to jump on, because I love what you're saying, Dorian. It's something I frequently say is seek clarity and confidence follows. And that's really what happened here. You know your number, because based on our pricing techniques together and our pricing process, I know my expenses, and like I freaking know them. They're all in front of me. I know what I'm paying my people. I know what the expenses are going to be. I know my growth. I know where I'm trying to go. I know how I'm going to get there. And if I take away from this number out of my lack of confidence, it's like I'm cutting myself so that I don't make you upset. That doesn't make
Absolutely.
any sense. Like you already know what the numbers are. So because you have clarity of your process, the confidence naturally follows it because you're like, this is
Absolutely.
what I need to do. It says it
Yep.
right here.
Yep.
Do you feel now? I'm going to start digging in, man. I'm going to dig in here. I hope you don't mind, but
No, go ahead.
I want people to understand what this is like. I mean, in the beginning, you wanted sales. Did you get sales?
Yeah, we got them.
You got your pricing right. You got sales. I mean, you basically fast forwarded, what would you say, 3 to 5 years of business in this first year and a half?
Yeah, man. For definitely for sure. I mean, there's people that I talk with, even some of my other mentors locally to us that sometimes the numbers that we do is just it's crazy to them. And there's people, some of my peers that have even said, "Man, dude, it took us 3 years to get to the $500,000 mark." I mean, I still remember to this day our first month. I think it was like 63, 65K.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just one of those moments where it just was like, oh wow, this is something that we can do.
Do you think, and now I'm going to dig in on our process a little bit here. Do you think if you offered fewer options, you'd be as far down the road as you are?
No,
Mm-hmm.
not whatsoever. I mean, so I remember early on, there were times where I was still a little bit iffy, didn't really feel super comfortable offering 6 options. But the times I didn't want to, and I made myself do it anyway, I remember clearly like some those times that I did that actually resulted in some of my highest sales. And I remember thinking after the fact, like, if I wouldn't have offered that, this would have resulted in just another, $300 call out. But
Mm-hmm.
because I decided to push forward and do the thing that was uncomfortable, it resulted in a win. And honestly, not just a win for us, but it resulted in a win for the customer because they're getting even more of an exceptional service rather than just a temporary basic fix that might, not hold up for the next year or two.
So you're telling me, if I'm hearing you correct, you're telling us rather, and everyone listening, that there were literally moments where you didn't want to run the play. You stuck to your offer, and afterwards it paid out in a way that you recognized what you wanted to do intuitively was not going to get you to this great result that you saw from doing it, especially when you didn't want to.
100%, man. Just you know, it's I use those examples often, whenever I'm talking to architects and just telling them like, because for them sometimes it's still uncomfortable for them sometimes, but I just always give them these examples. Everyone has that. I'm losing the word, but imagine showing up to a trailer park. Electricians talk about that often. No one wants to go to trailer parks, and dude, I've sold. I mean, in trailer parks, I've had actually some of my highest tickets in trailer parks. And if I were to
100%.
get out the truck and judge just by the appearance of, the surroundings, and I didn't make the offer, I mean, we definitely wouldn't be where we're at right
Mm-hmm.
Really good stuff. Really good stuff. You've already fast forwarded a few years, at least by your comparison. Do you think that you're facing challenges now that are kind of third year business challenges? Or tell us about some of the harder stuff that you're up against now.
So I would say the harder things that we're being challenged with is really lead generation to support, you know, I guess our targets. So, we know our average ticket, we know how many leads we're averaging per month. Um, and in order for us to, truly get to the position to where we can just continue to scale, we kind of hit a bottleneck as far as leads go. So I would say that would be one of the struggles.
By the way, I can hear your phone ringing. I think 30 marketers are calling you right now.
Right.
Literally right now.
They're
Dorian,
all
we can
gonna
solve your problem.
Jesus.
Please give me our money.
they're all gonna be in a
Every day.
race to the bottom to help you.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, man, that, and also for me, I would say definitely managing, because we did grow pretty fast. I've never made $500,000 in a year before. But also learning how to manage and see the cash flow, make projections based on the data. Those were some learning curves that we went through that I think, now looking back, now that we've gone through that experience, I think, um, I guess we're definitely more equipped to, handle things like that for sure.
When
Hope
you
that answers
look,
my question.
yeah, absolutely. When you look at 2684 as an average ticket overall, 60% close rate as an average close rate overall, do you see yourself improving that as you continue down this path?
Oh, 100%. So I know that, it's just like a muscle. The more reps you get, the stronger it'll be.
Mhm.
But what's crazy is like when you make projections just based on where we're at right now. I mean, we've done this exercise multiple times, but if if we can increase our leads, obviously there's a direct correlation to increasing our sales numbers.
Mhm.
But whenever you pair that with increasing the average ticket and increasing the conversion rate, I mean, it's just astronomical, completely day and night. And it doesn't even have to be like a huge 30-50% jump. Like even a
Mhm.
5% or 10% jump could be 100%, difference in our results.
Really big stuff. Yeah, I think when we broke it down, you were right around two average calls a day
On average. Yep.
overall. And so even from, even overall, like two average calls a day since you started and be at over 900K, what would happen if we just got one more call a day on average? You'd be at 1.35 without changing anything else, without any of the reps or the growth
Mhm.
that you talked about.
Yep.
What else are you guys doing currently? Do you mind asking about me asking about where are you also trying to grow your offer? What else are you focusing on to get bigger tickets and more market saturation right now?
Yeah. So right now our big thing is generators. We live in Southwest Louisiana, Hurricane Alley. There's hurricanes every single year. Power outages are quite common. There's a few. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever heard like of Generator Superstore or
Yeah.
GoGen or anything like that, but
Mhm.
they have a location out here. But the feedback that I get from some of our customers is like, we don't basically they don't, I guess, really like their service. So
Mhm.
I don't really see them market. I don't see them posting anything really. I don't see them anywhere. So in my opinion, I feel like it's a huge opportunity for us to come in and just be the go-to for everything generators. It's been a pretty, in 2024, we became dealers with Generac.
Mhm.
We just recently became service dealers, so now we can
Mhm.
also perform the service work and the warranty repairs. And we've also gotten on with Kohler to do the same thing as well. And we're also with Champion. So basically, our goal is to just, if whether it's a portable generator or a whole home standby, if you need the installation, if you need repairs, if you need maintenance, we can absolutely cover that and provide even better service than I guess in addition to the actual work, giving you
Mhm.
that additional guarantee of our service, especially since power outages are so common.
The cool thing here, and like obviously, I love generators, but you said
Mm-hmm.
one word that stood out more than anything else, and that's portable systems. And the reason being is because when people think generator, they think the big automatic system that you plug in that's 16,000 up. But really, like no one's focusing on the portables. So
Yep.
what kind of demand have you seen in that particular department?
So we get generator inlet calls all year. And honestly, one of my favorite things to do when someone calls for a whole home standby is to give them the option of, especially if you have natural gas. And a lot of people say, man, I just want to be able to keep my lights on, my outlets. They're not, a lot of people aren't really worried about, cooking. And they, if they have natural gas, they probably have a gas stove. Um, and
Outlet for the furnace, things like that. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I love being able to show them the alternate route because in their minds, they're already preparing for such a large investment that when I come in, I'm like, hey, this also could get you guys, pretty much the same thing with additional, I guess, with less of a convenience factor. It just, I mean, people really love that, and I think it just gives us where we might not have made a sell. It still gives us that extra option for us to secure it and give the customer what they were looking for. As far as demand, honestly, we definitely get. I want to say in last hurricane season, we probably got about, I would say, about 45 generator inlet calls.
Nice.
Yeah. So,
the cool thing about that, and forgive me for digging into this, it's just you also mentioned something there that is a huge win. So automatic generators are a hyper competitive field, right? Like everyone's trying to get into it, everyone's trying to offer. So when you think your typical standby installation, like you've got someone who's going to put 12 kW in, there's someone out there who's going to hack it in for $1,000. Like someone is going to do it, right? So you're competing in a very saturated market. But with portables, no one's doing them. No one's offering the enhancements. No one's maintaining them. So the customer thinks they're in for about $16,000. And the profit margin of that $16,000 is like this. But then you offer a platinum portable, which does everything they want, has all the conveniences, has all the enhancements, is substantially less money than what they were going to plan on paying anyway. And the profit margin's huge in that standard. So they win, you win, and there's no competition in it.
Absolutely.
Like that's huge. Like we got to speak to that there. That's a huge win for you.
Oh, for sure, man. And, especially whenever you can add things like emergency lighting, with the battery backup. So that way, as they're trying to plug into the home, they don't have to worry about, getting a flashlight or a headlamp. Just, the portable system with all the convenience factors, I guess, convenience options at the very least. It just gives us so much room to still secure the sale. And honestly, like you said, in that case, because automatic generators are a higher ticket, but less of a profit margin because, such a high ticket, but the materials are the bulk of it. The portables, man, just, we get to come in, provide a great service. And like you said, everybody wins. So
I'm so proud of you. I am so freaking proud of you, Dorian.
Really good stuff. Really good stuff. Dorian, as we wind down, we've got just a few minutes left on this one. What message or what would you express for, I know you've had lots of people reaching out, looking to talk to you and maybe get your feedback on where they're at and that kind of thing. What would you say is generally one piece of advice that you're giving to people or helping them with?
So my favorite thing to start with is, well, there's a few things, but I would say, staying true to present over perfect, taking action and looking at, I guess, your business from, like, we always look at it from, leads, sales, the deliverables, and then team culture. So obviously there are no sales without leads. There's nothing to deliver if you don't, have any sales. And then as far as your team culture, because to provide a service that truly serves customers at the highest level before, during, and after, everyone has to play a part in that. Everyone has to be on the same page. And if you break it down into those simple things, sometimes it can be, I guess, if you're trying to troubleshoot your business or if you're trying to figure out, man, how do we grow this thing? Most of the time, leads and sales is, something that you can directly look at. And, as we looked at earlier, sometimes it's not necessarily the big jumps that you need to make, but sometimes those small efforts, those small increases can make, an insane amount of difference in your overall top line. So I would say, yeah, I mean, that's, I guess, yeah, that would be my message.
You know what your superpower is, Dorian?
What's that?
You weren't a born sales guy, but you were born a student.
Yep.
And you clearly have been absorbing and learning, and not just from us, from others in the group. I want to put you on spot with another question that we don't usually ask. The last podcast we had, as mentioned, was with Dan. I know you've spoken to Dan. You guys have been in the same room a few times. What have you learned from Dan that's helped you on your journey?
So, honestly, one of the things that, especially with their business, that I look at is really how successful they've been with lead generation. And I think that comes from a long list of things that they're doing. And really just, being out in the community, having more conversation with as many, people as they can, building those relationships, and honestly just being willing to share the pie with, their partners and everything like that. So I just see, how those guys are getting, what is it like? Is it 50 leads per week or something like that?
Organically?
Yes. No paid ads yet. I mean, when I see that, I just, it just brings to mind for me that, man, if we can just get to a position to where we're just maximizing our potential for lead generation. I mean, we have, based on our reviews and the feedback we get from our customers, I mean, the service is there. Customers are pleased with what we provide. I have the data for, my sales performance. So it's like just looking at what Dan and them are doing, man, it's just, that's one thing that I look up to whenever it comes to their business is, just how well they're able to hit on that lead generation aspect.
Scale what works.
Yep.
It's really good. We're down to the wire here, Dorian. I want to thank you so much. I want to congratulate you ahead of time publicly on reaching your first 7 figures in business, because we know you're going to do that very soon. We know you're about to hit 100 reviews in just over a year being a business full time. So that's also awesome. Congrats on that. And I want to thank you so much for a second year. It's been awesome to serve you. And guys, if you want to learn more about Dorian, from Dorian, what's the best way for people to reach out to you, Dor?
Man, if you just want to send me a message on Facebook, my page is public, so reach out anytime. Obviously, you guys can always call the office, but it won't be me answering. So for me personally, best way is going to be Facebook.
Awesome. Really good stuff. And of course, in fact, I shouldn't say of course, but just like we announced with Dan, Dorian is also one of our client coach ambassadors at this point. So people in our program learning from Dorian as well. And you could too, guys. Can't wait to see you next week. And Dorian, we can't wait to see you next year for a 3rd year anniversary. Thanks so much, brother. We got to go, guys. Have a great one.
Take care, man.
Take care.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the $1 Million Electrician podcast.
We hope you're buzzing with new ideas that charged up to take your business to the next level.
So don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share the show with fellow electricians. Together, we'll keep the current flowing.